Hey everyone, feeper here, back with another video for you. Hope you're all having a lovely holiday season as Heaven's Turn and more importantly New Year's Eve are almost upon us here. We're going to be taking a look at the changes that were made to Warrior in patch 5.18 of Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers. Of course, this is primarily a PvP related patch and video. Before we get too far into the video though, just feel free, if you like this kind of content, please feel free to drop me a like and subscribe. It would really help me out and keep the algorithm happy. And without further ado, let's jump in. So, first thing to know is that you have your standard 3-hit combo, Storm's Path combo, boom, boom, boom. Now you notice that the final hit, Storm's Path, will heal you for the amount that you do, and overall this will generate you 30 beast gauge. Alright, so the first thing we'll go over are the two standard combos that you have. You have your standard 3-hit combo, this is Storm's Path. 2, and 3. Now you notice that Storm's Path, the final hit, does heal you for the amount that you do, and overall this will generate you 30 beast gauge, over the 3 hits. Now branching off of that, we have the Steel Cyclone combo, which of course is the AoE combo. It'll do less damage single target, obviously, because it's AoE. But the thing to note is that it also generates 30 gauge overall. And then of course Steel Cyclone will heal you based off of the amount that you do and the amount of enemies that you hit. So in certain situations where you really need to get enough beast gauge to use, say, a FFXIV or something, doing your AoE combo, even though it's less damage, might actually be beneficial, so just keep that in mind. Alright, so next we have FFXIV, which is just going to be a 2000 potency single target hit, pretty good damage, and it will also cost 50 beast gauge and reduce your Infuriate cooldown by 10 seconds. Very different than how it is in PvE. And then of course Decimate, same thing, just AoE, 1200 potency, and it's 5 seconds per enemy hit. So if you hit 4 people, you can actually just reduce the cooldown by 20 seconds. Pretty dumb. Not going to happen, like ever, but it is possible. Now speaking of Infuriate, when you use this ability, 30-second cooldown, 2 casts, it'll grant you Nascent Chaos, which will let you use either Inner Chaos or Chaotic Cyclone. Now do note that Inner Chaos and Inner Cyclone both place a debuff on every one hit, so obviously Inner Chaos is just the one person. That will make them take 10% more damage for 10 seconds. Pretty good. And then the AoE one, Chaotic Nascent, wait, what? What is it called? I can't remember what it's called. I just forgot it. Chaotic Cyclone, jeez, there we go, is the same thing except it's 5%, but to everyone hit in an AoE, both 10-second duration. Now next up here in terms of offensive things, we have Tomahawk, just standard range attack. Generates 10 beast gauge though, so that is important to keep in mind. And the other important thing to keep in mind is that it does not break your combo. See how my combo stays? The only thing that will break one of these two combos for Warrior is if you use the other one. But even, obviously Inner Chaos, Cyclone, and FFXIV, Decimate will not break a combo either. That's something very important to keep in mind. You always kind of want to be using something to be generating beast gauge, and Tomahawk is a great way to do that. So last up on the offensive side, we have Inner Release. This will basically make you immune to all CC for 6 seconds. So stun, sleep, bind, heavy, silence, and knockback and drawing effects. You are completely immune to all of them. And then it will also allow you to cast, Decimate and FFXIV, I cannot think right now, for free for 6 seconds. So essentially you get 3 free casts. Now this is a great way to lower your Infuriate timer because it will basically guarantee you getting 30 seconds, which is literally 1 Infuriate. So definitely, if you can help it, try not to use these two, when these have 2 stacks, but it's going to happen sometimes. It's also a great way to Infuriate and then FFXIV or Inner Release, so you get the 10% extra damage for all of these. It's also a great combo. So now moving towards the defensive side of the kit, we have Home Gang, 45-second cooldown. It draws the target towards the caster, binding both of you for 4 seconds, and it ignores bind and knockback resist. Also, you can't die. So, and arguably, it has a CC effect on it, so that makes it better than Hallowed Ground, but it doesn't last as long. So, and you still take damage, you just can't die. But this is a great way if you want to home gank someone and then hit them with a double Infuriate and start FFXIVing them and pop sprint after or stun them. Or if someone's chasing a healer that's about to die and you have home gank, you can just lock them towards you. Really, really great ability. So next up we have Nascent Flash. So this works very similarly to how it does in PvE, except for one difference. So grants you Nascent Flash and the target Nascent Glint. And the Nascent Flash effect is it absorbs 50% of the damage dealt as HP, and then the Glint effect is that they just get that healing as well. So, for 6 seconds, what you do essentially is every time you do damage, you heal yourself and the person that has this on them. It does not have, unfortunately, it does not have the 10% also damage mitigation on it like it does in PvE. Kind of a bummer. This is definitely the worst of the tank like single target sort of shield bubble things. It's definitely worse than the Blackest Night. It's definitely worse than Sentinel. You could maybe make an argument it's better than Aurora, but Aurora is more consistent, whereas this you kind of have to line it up with your kit, which isn't always possible in PvE or PvP, excuse me. So definitely the worst out of the four, but I think Warrior generally makes up for it. It's definitely its biggest weakness. But one ability that is great in PvP, as it is in PvE, is Shake It Off. So 60-second cooldown, and basically just gives everyone 2,000 health shield for 10 seconds. But if you're under the effect of Rampart, this now becomes a 3,000 effect shield. Of course, it removes Rampart from you, similar to how it does with other things in PvE. So great ability there. And then Holmgang is another great CC option as well. Warrior actually has, I think, the most CC out of all the tanks. Or, well, I guess Gunbreaker has a slow, but Paladin and Dark Knight just have the CC from the roll action. So, having Holmgang as an extra CC is really strong. That's going to be it for the overview of Warrior. Of course, I'm not going to go over the additional and roll actions such as Rampart, Sprint, the Medica kit, all that good stuff, because we've already talked about those in the past videos. Of course, if you want to check those out, there'll be a link in the description. Now we're going to jump to some gameplay, and we're going to just kind of talk about tips and tricks for Warrior, what you want to be looking for, what you don't want to be looking for. Overall, it's fairly similar to how it was before patch 5.18, with a few differences, notably because Tomahawk doesn't have a slow on it and stuff like that. So we'll get into that kind of stuff. So what Warrior really excels in PvP is burst damage. As I mentioned before, hitting someone with Inner Chaos for the damage reduction and then Inner Release comboing them into another Inner Chaos is pretty crazy damage, especially for a tank. I ran the math and it's almost 1100k potency over the 10 seconds. This combined with your extra CC and survivability in home game can make Warriors pretty scary, honestly. Another thing to keep in mind, as I mentioned before, is to always be tomahawking if you aren't in range of someone. Remember, it doesn't break your combos at all. Same thing with Inner Chaos, Inner Cyclone, or Chaotic Cyclone, and Decimate Felcleave. None of them break your combos. The only way you break a combo is if you change from the AoE combo to the single target and vice versa. Oh, quick edit. I completely forgot to mention Onslaught, so I'll just mention it here. 1000 potency, 15-second cooldown gap closer, costing 20 gauge, and it can't be used while bound. So if you're using Holmgang, you can't Onslaught, and of course, Inner Release also makes this free of cost. So what's really going to separate good Warriors from bad Warriors is being able to chain as many Felcleaves into Inner Chaoses or Cyclones for that increased damage. Remember, if you hit someone with Inner Cyclone, it's not as much reduction, but it's an AoE. So once you can kind of figure out, is it worth it to get the AoE reduction here of 5% for more people, or do I want the extra burst and the 10% on one person? Can I hit 3 people with Decimate here to reset my cooldown more, or should I just go with the safer route and use Felcleave? Once you can start answering these questions and make these decisions on the fly, you're going to really start to rack up some damage. Also, do keep in mind that the fastest way to generate gauge is with your AoE combo. It's 2 hits for 30 gauge as opposed to your single target, which is 3 hits for 30. So as far as weaknesses go, Warrior's biggest weakness is definitely Nascent Flash, as I mentioned before. It's just bad, man. It's just really bad. I mean, the problem is you can't really reliably line it up with your burst to get a crap ton of healing out of it. It also doesn't last long enough to get a lot of burst under it anyways. So like if you Nascent Flash and then Inner Release it in the same off GCD, you're gonna clip. And I think if your ping is good enough, I think you can still get all 3 Felcleaves off, but generally speaking, you're gonna miss a Felcleave in there somewhere because you're gonna not double weave them or something weird's gonna happen, especially if someone runs out of range. It doesn't last long enough for what it does. It's just bad. I mean, every time you use it, you're gonna be like, man, I wish I was any of the other tanks right now. I mean, the Blackest Night is just broken. Intervention's pretty good. And just for reference, Aurora heals for 3000 potency over 15 seconds and gives you a 2000 potency shield. So like, why is Nascent Flash here? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just bad. If it had the 10% damage reduction, it would be fine. It still wouldn't be as good as the others, but I understand Warrior has other things going for it, so I'm cool with it not being able to do everything. But when the other 3 tanks, single target like shield type abilities, just do infinitely more than this, it's kind of like, well, why not just buff this or nerf the others? Like, it's strange. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of bad. Nascent Flash isn't great. Now, as far as additional actions go, Rampart again is an okay choice, just like with Paladin. A 3000 potency Shake It Off is actually pretty OP, I'm not gonna lie. And they both have a 60-second cooldown, so they're always pretty much gonna have them lined up with each other, which is nice. I think if you're going to use Retaliation on any tank in the game, it's probably Warrior, just because they seem to draw more attention to themselves. So you can get more use out of it, but I would still generally stay away from this ability. Weapon Throw is great if you're trying to get someone in home gang range or pulling them back in after one. It's actually pretty funny. You can lock someone down with home gang, Weapon Throw, and low blow. You can lock someone down for almost 10 seconds. Actually, I think it's 10 seconds, which is pretty dumb. You can just keep them in place for 10 seconds, which is definitely annoying to them and can definitely get you some kills. Again, Full Swing is a good choice. I still prefer Weapon Throw just because I think less can kind of go wrong with it. Full Swing, the server ticks can kind of make it weird. You can be in front of someone in Full Swing and you'll just end up pushing them away from your team and losing a kill because the server tick didn't tick fast enough, and in the server's mind, you're still technically behind them. So you just kind of have to use it a bunch and get used to it. So I just think it's not as consistent as Weapon Throw, but again, it's still a good ability, and it has 1000 potency, which is pretty strong. And then last but not least, of course, Reprisal is always good, especially since you don't have any damage mitigation in your kit inherently, like Paladin does, or even Gunbreaker with Aurora. Well, I guess it's not mitigation, it's just a shield, but you get the point. I generally stick with Weapon Throw Reprisal, but Rampart is good, and of course Full Swing you can still use. I just think that Weapon Throw Reprisal is the most consistent thing you're going to get. But again, a 3000 potency Shake It Off is pretty good. So I would probably switch that out for Weapon Throw, especially once you get into the culling. Reprisal can really, really save things. So I would say either Weapon Throw Reprisal or Rampart Reprisal are probably your best bet. But you could do Weapon Throw Rampart if you want, or full Swing in there somewhere. And that's going to be a wrap for Warrior. It's honestly a really fun and relatively fast-paced job at PvP, especially once you start chaining Infuriates into Fellcleaves into Infuriates. Lots of lockdown potential, lots of burst potential, decent mitigation. Again, Nascent Flash just leaves a lot to be desired. If it had the 10% reduction like it does in PvE, it would be friggin' golden, but alas, it does not. And with that, we only have Gunbreaker left for the tanks, and then we can start working our way into the other jobs. Sorry, these have kind of taken a while. The holiday season has been kind to me, but not in terms of making videos. So let me know what you guys think about Warrior in the comment section below in PvP and sort of how it compares to the other tanks. Of course, if you want to see me stream Final Fantasy live, you can watch me over at twitch.tv/feeper7. We're doing a lot of Ultimate content. We actually finally saw Verge Justice and Cruise Chaser drop down. So that was sick. We actually saw Nises and immediately died because only like 3 of us were alive, but we're getting there, so that's been a lot of fun. Of course, Monster Hunter Iceborne's coming out in less than a month, which I'm super pumped about. Can't wait for that. We just got some other games in there too, so be on the lookout for that stuff coming up. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.